Hi everyone. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the private live stream. So I was trying to stream my iPad as well to just be able to write notes on, but I guess that's not happening this time around. But I can still put something together. I can still draw on like this. I can draw in free form or something like that, just to illustrate concepts. But feel free to start asking questions. So this live stream is going to be more focused on how to actually profile build, because I keep getting questions from people from different fields, especially fields that I haven't really covered as much, especially people outside of tech. And they ask me, have you seen EB1A profiles for this specific field? If not, is it possible to profile build? Well, the answer is if there are top professionals in your field, then it is possible to profile build for EB1A, because EB1A is about showing how you've risen to the top of your field. So, yeah, that's what you need to show. And I can answer more specific questions around how to find profile building opportunities. So just feel free to start asking questions in the comments, and I can do live demonstrations of what I would do if I was in your situation in profile building. And yeah, a lot of profile building just comes down to outreach and really understanding how to identify the right opportunities to look into. And I can also go a bit, so feel free to start asking questions, but I can go a bit into the most common misconceptions that I have come across in profile building. The most common one is thinking that doing a lot of activities in itself is going to be enough to build a strong profile, that doing a lot of activities is what matters, not doing a lot of high quality activities. So that's why you have people trying to go for media coverage, for awards, just getting as many of those criteria as possible. That is not how profile building works. You can present an extremely strong profile with just three criteria, or even four. The person who has evidence for seven criteria does not necessarily have a stronger profile than someone with three criteria. That's just something to keep in mind. But I'll revisit this point afterwards. Let's look into Harsh's question. I guess we start with my example. As I'm totally new to this profile building, I have MS degree and entry level job in pharma manufacturing company. What should be my next steps? Okay, so if you are an entry level professional, then you probably don't really have that strong of a leading or critical role, but maybe that's not accurate. Maybe you already have a lot of experience in maybe your home country or something like that. So it's not necessarily an indication that you don't have a strong leading or critical role claim. But if you are just starting off in your career, you should be focusing on, if EB1A is your eventual target, focus on things like judging and authorship. Those are the two most straightforward criteria to meet. You can start getting involved in judging and authorship, and this you would do through. Okay, that's pretty decent. So this is you would do. You would probably focus on judging authorship and perhaps membership, and you would do this by starting to get involved in membership organizations in your field. So let's say I'm in your position. This is what I would do. So I would probably, so say I'm looking for opportunities. So you say pharmaceuticals. So you would probably, this is what I usually do for lots of different, just finding activities in general. So I would look at, okay, where are these calls for speakers for pharmaceuticals related activities? So I would look, okay, it seems like this has an open call for speakers. So I would probably look for speaking opportunities to start. I mean, some of these are reserved for more high level professionals, but these are just this is what you would be doing to learn more about the conferences and organizations you want to get involved with. And then the reason why I say member organizations are so important is because the more member organizations you are involved with, especially at the junior level, the more likely you are to meet more top professionals in your field because of perhaps those in-person events that you will get to attend. So by attending those in-person events, you'll just get to meet more people, and then as a result, you will get to start learning more about the different conferences, studying opportunities, authorship opportunities out there, which will give you a firm foundation for eventually building a profile that shows that you've risen to the top of your field. So something I would do is like pharmaceutical member organization. So it seems like this does not seems to be more for companies. How about let's look more. Okay, so maybe something like this. I'm not saying this is something that is definitely going to be a good fit for you, but something like this, for example, is just anything with chapters, anything with volunteering, and anything with chapters is what you would want to look into. So this is a good sign. 40 plus 40 plus communities, so 40 plus chapters. This is definitely something to get involved with if it is related to your field. But this is just an example of a general example of the type of organization that you want to be involved with. Because as you can see, these kinds of member organizations, everything's up to date. They have this conference coming up. They have webinars where you can contribute. So that's why member organizations are so important to get involved with for starting off. For memberships and share of these can matter, well, you're going to want to show more evidence than just I'm a general member. Remember, you're trying to make the argument that you've risen to the top of your field. So just showing that you are a general member, maybe attended a few activities, that is not going to be enough. You're going to want to show far more evidence for membership and just your profile in general. You will want to maybe get on some councils or committees within the organization, but everything starts with being a general member. That's just something to keep in mind. And my understanding is IEEE also has some stuff in pharma. Looks like this is something that is related to IEEE, so it's the Medicine and Biology Society. So that's just something possibly to look into as well. But going to the other questions, Ivan Ash, can you also provide some insights for cloud DevOps engineers? I have 13 plus years experience working with multinational banks. So this is actually a field I know a bit more about. For cloud, there are quite a few opportunities that you can go for. And yes, Ellen, I will look into your questions as well. But I'm going to Avinash's question about cloud. This is essentially the same thing that I kind of do with cloud. And if you look at the profile building opportunities database that I have shared as part of my newsletter resources, which I can also link after I answer this question, which you all should have access to. And if you don't, send me an email. There are a lot of cloud computing opportunities, but it's essentially the same thing. This is what I do. Call for speakers. All right. So everyone's been talking about this. I think it's coming up soon, but for cloud, all right, this is stopped accepting speakers for cloud. CloudX is a good one to look into, and I think they do have volunteering opportunities as well. So this is definitely a good way to get involved because this is one of the, my understanding is it's a part of, it's behind the organization that organizes this is behind Developer Week, and that is one of the largest developer conferences in the world. So maybe look into volunteering for CloudX, and then through the people you meet there, you can then look into Dev Network's advisory board because they have a cloud advisory board which you can apply to. Yeah. So this is just something, these two are related because Dev Network helps organize CloudX. CloudX is one of the top conferences for cloud. They are also considering speakers on a rolling basis right now. Very limited number, but if you have 13 plus years of experience, perhaps you have a lot to contribute when it comes to cloud. Something else you can do is look into Linux Foundation. Linux Foundation has a ton of cloud opportunities. So even though this is closed, you can go to, you can attend some of these events. I think they have volunteering opportunities for this, but something like, yeah. Oh wait, no, this already passed. But CNCF is what you want to look into. Calls for speakers. Okay, this is still open. I didn't even know this was still open. But yeah, CNCF is something else you want to get involved with. This is also open. But yeah, CNCF is definitely something you want to get involved with for cloud. So this is just what I would be doing. See, just by searching for cloud computing, call for speakers, I've already found a bunch of opportunities. Okay, so Ellen has a question. I've judged multiple hackathons as part of building my profile. Should I also get involved in peer reviewing journals to strengthen judging others' work criteria? Yes, peer reviewing is explicitly mentioned as evidence of judging in the USCIS policy manual. So you want to be reviewing for conferences. You don't have to review for very top research conferences, but you could be reviewing for, say, NeurIPS or Triple AI is another good one. And I also run an outreach group outside of the newsletter as well, and I've been finding a lot of peer review opportunities for people. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but I've been able to source 10 peer review opportunities so far with NeurIPS for that group in just a month. But generally speaking, you will want to get involved in Triple AI. You will want to get involved in IEEE CIS, Computational Intelligence Society. You want to get involved in Dev Network. You will want to get involved in ACM AI related conferences. A couple of them I've come across recently that are looking for reviewers. You can just go on the ACM conference calendar and then just look for those AI related ones. You can also go on IEEE's conference calendar, which has handy search functionality, and you can search for AI there. How to land judging opportunities, Avinash. It's just about journal opportunities. Publishing journals, it's just going to come down to answering calls for papers. So literally, a lot of the organizations I've mentioned have calls for papers. So if you go on Triple AI right now, you can definitely find some calls for papers. So let's do that right now. Calls for papers. Yeah. Well, not this, but if you look at their upcoming events, I've definitely come across. Yeah. If you look at their fall symposia, next fall symposia, call. I just came across. I already looked at this, so I know. As you can see, there are lots of symposia. This is one. August 1st, deadline for submission, calls for papers. That's how you can submit a paper and then try to get published. If you want to, and then same here, August 11th. And if you want to get involved in reviewing for these conferences, just email these people. Email all of them. Email literally every single one of these people to see if you can get involved in reviewing papers for them. Going back to the pharma field. Since I'm done with my academics and working in the industry, how do I start preparing the research papers or publications? So since you're a part of the group, there are a lot of pharma people in there. So introduce yourself in the group and then ask if anyone is working on papers. I also know someone who is working on papers, I think. So just ping me on LinkedIn and I will connect you with him because he is in pharma and he is doing a lot of profile building and he's actually doing the outreach that I'm suggesting everyone do, which is 100 to 200 messages a week. Last I spoke with him, he has been doing 20 to 30 messages and has been getting tons of opportunities. So ping me on LinkedIn. What do we ask at the end of such peer review volunteer opportunities? For evidence that can directly be presented for UB1A petition, it can be a letter of participation as a peer reviewer. It can be an official email. invitation showing that you were invited to peer review because of your expertise. Yeah. And then if you actually appear at a conference and you speak, then perhaps you could get some photos from that conference as well, and then maybe some sort of letter of participation. Similar to AAA is there something for cloud or DevOps? Yes, CNCF. CNCF has a ton of events coming up. So many calls for proposals. And another, I haven't shared this publicly, but this is also something I do, and this is extremely useful for people in general. Go and sessionize. People don't know this. Sessionize as a speaker directory. So if you go into the speaker directory and you search cloud computing, you will find a bunch of people who are regularly hosting talks at like conferences. And why you want to do this is because then you will know what kinds of opportunities to actually go for. So for example, this person is in cloud computing. Let's see what kinds of opportunities they are speaking at. Oh, look, they have this coming up. They have this coming up. So now you know that these are the opportunities to go for because this person who is like really high up in cloud computing has like all these conferences coming up. So this person is speaking at these conferences, and then you get these conferences, and you speak at these conferences, then you can know that this is the bar to try to reach. So yeah, this is something that you can definitely be doing. Any recommendations for becoming an advisor, board member in the AIML? Any resources? So I've been talking about an AI organization. They may have some sort of advisory opportunity coming up. Outside of that, it's just going to come down to doing a lot of outreach to different AI organizations. So there's AI Collective, there's Triple AI. I actually know someone who was able to get into AI Collective as a chapter lead, who's also a part of this group. But yeah, there's that. There's also Triple AI. There is Developer Week, advisory boards. There's Lead Devs advisory boards. Lots of advisory boards right now for AIML. AIML is probably one of the most prolific fields right now for profile building. Just tons of opportunities all around. Attending and actually contributing as big mind of field. What matters more? Does just attending and help for a strong profile? Depends on the opportunity. If you attend something that's highly exclusive and that is invite only and that is reserved for top professionals in your field, that can be very strong evidence. But if not, it's probably not going to count. So one example is someone I worked with on profile building for a bit. He was invited to some sort of AI conference that is hosted at MIT that is pretty much invite only. It is invite only. And he was invited and was able to show that only CEOs and directors in AI were invited. That in itself can be strong evidence because he was invited. That's external recognition. He was invited amongst like thousands of other people who applied. So that can count. If it's just something you can just attend, probably not. For getting the recommendation letters, what shall we consider? I mean, does it have to be only from someone who is in cloud or DevOps? I'm assuming you're asking about EV1A. And if so, it depends on whether you can get someone to comment on whether you have risen to the top of your field. So if it's business outcomes you have created through your work, then just get someone who can comment on the significance of your business outcomes. Doesn't have to be someone in cloud. It could be some sort of business executive within your company or even outside of your company who can provide the context as required to understand the overall significance of your work. Because that is what references are about. References do not have to just come from people who have your particular expertise. They can come from people who have the ability to provide the context that is required for a letter so that someone can actually understand the significance of your work. Do you actually help profile build personally, one-on-one for a specific field? For what type of consultation charge? What's your success rate? So I don't really. I mean, I have an outreach group, but that's more for like AI and like people in tech. That's where I provide the most individualized attention. But even then, it's not about like telling you exactly what to do. It's more about sourcing opportunities because I believe that if you get into this mentality of I need to know exactly what to do, you're probably not developing the right skill set to profile build because I feel like you should be learning how to identify opportunities on your own instead of having me identify opportunities. I mean, I can do that too, but if you do that as well, then you're going to have a much easier time finding these opportunities. That's why it's like a newsletter. That's why it's a group. It's supposed to help you help yourself. That's why I don't do things where like here are the 10 activities you do these things, and then like you have a strong profile. No, that's not how it works. In fact, I encourage you not to do that. I encourage you to actually enjoy developing yourself professionally, and then as a result, building a profile too. Sure, it is a part of my judging initiative right now, and I can just share more details here, but it's application only, and you will have to apply for it. I'm just sharing the link right now. You will have to apply for it. And yeah, if I think I can work with you, then you will hear back. But again, this is like an application process. And, but yeah. Also, that's why the group exists. You want to be learning from other people as well. You don't want to be you don't want to be in a position where you're just kind of like waiting for like those 10 specific opportunities to pan out. There are some opportunities that I probably don't know about as well that you may find out about just by going to local chapter events, in-person events where you can meet other top professionals in your field. You can also just reach out to top professionals in your field either through LinkedIn, or you can do this within the private group that you have access to right now for $12 per month. You can literally just go into the Substack group and then say like, just introduce yourself, and then do that like every 3 to 5 days, and then that can be a way to start getting noticed by other people who are doing the kinds of things that you want to be doing. Because everyone in that group is pretty much profile building, so that's also something else you want to do. So try to understand how to profile build so you can help yourself, and I can help if I can help with outreach, but I think the newsletter is more about just teaching you how to profile build on your own, especially like yeah, especially the yeah, everyone's profile is different. Next time when we do something like this, can we do a Zoom call or something? I think just talking one-on-one on call would be highly helpful and make things easier. Sure, I can consider that. The thing is, like, I mean, I guess like until we get to a point where it becomes like massive, because I think sometimes it just, I mean, like, sure, we'll look into that. It's just like there are limits to the number of people I can admit into Google Meets, so we'll look into that probably for the next one. But I guess until they get too big, we can do that. Do you need to have written papers before in order to get peer review opportunities? How high is the bar of expertise is the peer review requiring for? It helps a lot to have written papers and be published. A lot of people who are picking out the reviewers are going to ask for your Google Scholar. That is something I've noticed for a lot of opportunities recently. Peer review opportunities, they've asked even the people I've referred to them for their Google Scholars. You also don't. The opportunity industry academia is good, but looks still like more towards people already written or published papers before. No, it's not really for that. But I think, I mean, like, I think you're going for NIW. So I would try to get published more in like blogs and all that instead of that. Like probably try to get published in blogs or something that's like not as intense as getting published in like journals. Is the reshire program only for landing judging opportunities? No, it is not. It is for judging and other opportunities, so it can be speaking. It's just that everyone keeps asking me about judging for some reason, so I've just focused it on judging, but not really anymore. It's just a bunch of other opportunities as well. Be great idea to have such private meetings bi-weekly, a good motivation for keep on grinding. So if you want to book a private meeting, like a one-on-one, then you can book it through my profile. But I think I'm just gonna like keep these live streams instead because there are just simply far too many people sending me like questions and all. So yeah, but if you need like a private meeting or something, you can just book it through my profile. Anyone else have questions? Also, the initiative is again about showing you exactly what I do for certain fields. Just so happens that everyone's asking about AI, so I'm doing a lot of outreach for AI. And that has led to people finding membership opportunities, like top committee positions within conferences. They have also been able to someone found like a chapter lead position with like a top AI organization. Someone found a top conference committee position. Someone found like a bunch of peer review opportunities with NeurIPS. Some people have found like a bunch of judging through the hackathons that I've introduced them to that are looking for professionals like them. So yeah. Anyone else have questions? All right, let's. Regarding publishing of paper in IEEE and ACM takes lots of time. Any other impactful organization that can be quick to submit and get reviewed? It depends. If you want to go for conferences, then they tend to have a quicker turnaround because they have a conference date. So that's why they probably will need to review the papers before a certain date. But anything that reviews in like a couple of weeks, probably want to be careful there. There are quite a few of opportunities for chapter book writing. Are they considered good credits for authorship criteria? Depends on who is publishing your book. You can also self-publish. Some people have done that, but you will have to find some way to show that it is evidence of external recognition. Well, one person I met, he self-published and then sent his book to like professors, and then they're now using his materials in their classes. So that is actually a good way to get external recognition. But yeah, it can be good authorship evidence, but generally speaking, it just takes a lot of time to publish book chapters. But if it's with a notable publisher, it could be worth looking into. But if you're just going to publish something and then have it sit there, it's probably not great. Do you have people with IT community? It would be helpful for references for people with 10 plus years experience trying to apply. So we did an IT workshop recently, and the IT fellow and fellowship advisor literally said they're not going to just nominate anyone they don't know. The bar is not 10 plus years of experience. They have to know about your experience on like a personal level. So it seems like what you can do is try to get like people you know to who know your work to refer you. I think that's where IT is becoming more difficult. You can also contact like current fellows through the IT program. They'll introduce you to fellows if you reach out to them. Anyone else have questions? Like, for example, Springer, Nature, Admiral, IRC are good for chapter books, writing, and reviewing. Springer, Nature is good. The rest, I don't need really know. Every IT is very difficult. Just wanted to understand if someone to know me, I have to at least connect with them through a common channel. Yeah, but that was my understanding initially as well, that they could just help, but a lot of them are not willing to because you can just get introduced to fellows through IT itself. Like, a lot of people aren't, like, for them it's like if they nominate one person, they're gonna get like 100+ requests like a month. So they're just not doing it. That's what I've seen. Also, IT is getting more difficult, and it's not necessarily something that you have to have. You don't even need membership. That's just something to keep in mind. How long do you generally have seen people taking to build a profile from scratch? People who are junior professionals or mid-level professionals, 3 to 5 years, probably longer. Depends on how strong of a leading or critical role claim you have or original contributions. You need a strong anchor criterion to have a strong profile. It's not a strong profile doesn't really come from just judging an authorship and membership. But if you have leading or critical role or original contributions or both, and you have strong claims for both or one, then it can take 6 months to a year. What is the difference of being editors for the books versus just contributing the chapters in the books? Which is better? There's no better because it depends on what kinds of books. But generally speaking, editing can be good for judging, possibly even membership. Contributing can be good for authorship, but nothing else really. How long for a one profile? 6 months to 2 years, possibly. Depends on whether you can show that you've risen to the top 25% of your field. How deep understanding with the author of paid reference letter, like the 9 experts you mentioned in Substack, be knowing you personally for your work? And we are offering paid reference letters, but want to know the process of getting to know the person. Independent references are not about them knowing you personally. In fact, the thing is, references are not about them knowing you personally, some of them, especially independent references. They are there to review the evidence you provided and provide context. Explain the significance of your work. Explain how they have come to then conclude that you are an expert in your field, or in your case, be able to carry out your proposed endeavor. It's not about knowing you personally. That doesn't really help as much, and you probably already have those perspectives covered. Having someone cover the wider significance of your work based on their own understanding of your field, that could help, especially if that person's really well recognized in your field and they make claims like you have risen to the top of your field because they've been in the field for like 20 years, something like that. Qualifies as critical role. I mean, even at my current entry level role, I pulled off a project with help, did the business of 40 million to my company. Does that count as critical role? Well, if you can show that you played a critical role in generating that 40 million, that could be quite significant. And that is true. You don't have to be in a senior role to have played a critical role, but you will have to somehow demonstrate that. You will definitely have to demonstrate that, and you will be probably compared to people who have done the same thing, except as directors and VPs. All right, let's do a couple more questions. If so, just taking reference letter from a manager will work? No, not as simple as that. I would say the bar is higher. You need, like, if you start off as a junior professional, I mean, like, maybe a manager reference letter that clearly explains the connection between your work and these critical and significant outcomes, then possibly. But there's going to be a lot of hesitation around this claim that a junior professional was able to generate 40 million in revenue for a company. The question would therefore be, why are you still a junior professional? Like, why are you in a junior role if you've helped generate 40 million for your company? That's a question I would ask. Like, you're saying that you've done all this great work, but then you're still in a junior role. So it's either your company doesn't recognize you for this work, in which case, how would you even get the references to show you have recognition? Or you actually have not played that critical of a role. I mean, that's a pushback you would get. It was just a project I was put on. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, so did you play a critical role or not? You would have to show that. All right. I have time for a couple more questions, probably just one or two more questions. Earning awards, does company level awards count? No. If it's in your company, maybe leading a critical role, but does not count towards the awards criteria. Depends on the awards though. Didn't invest anything new, but I did a lot of pilot work and in-sourced some heavy volume product in-house. Okay, that's the beginnings of maybe something related to leading a critical role. But you would have to unpack that further because it's not immediate. It's not like I've never worked in your field and I don't understand what this means. Like, why is this impressive, significant? That's what an officer is going to ask. Like, why is this significant? All right. Let's try to do this again next week. Thanks everyone for joining today's live stream.